Midgårdsblot is all about the music, the metal, but also all the other genres inspired by both metal, by Viking Age, by history, mythology, all that we have discussed here the last 3 days. And therefore, it's very appropriate to also have a music panel. It's a very important part of the festival. And we have some very distinguished guests here today. First of all, let me introduce the actual podcast makers. I mean, most of you know them. You've produced over 100 episodes of Nordic Mythology Podcast. How many? 128. And that is Daniel Forand, first, who is founder of Horns of Odin. That's pretty much it. And then we have Dr. Mathias Norvik, who is an associate professor in, here we go again, the University of Boulder, Colorado, or the other way around?
The other way around.
The other way around. I do it wrong every time, yeah. Okay, so these are the hosts. And then we have the distinguished guests. We have Julie Weir from Sony Music. We have Letitia Abenes from Seasons of Mist. And we have Ivar Björnsson from By Norse Music. And we are having 2 more additional guests coming in a bit later. There's a lot of things going on at the festival, so we're a bit here and there, but we're also having Jonathan Seltzer from Metal Hammer UK, and also Otto Egil Sætre from Charisma Records. So I give the mic back to you, Daniel. Give it away.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Vicky. We should hire Vicky every week to introduce us.
That would be great.
It's better than doing it myself, I feel. Julie, I have to say from the start, as a fellow Brit, we have to stick together here. These Danes pick on us, so me and you, we're in this together. Oh, and a fist bump as well.
Can I get the backup from the Norwegians? Then? Wonderful. Good place to start.
We're what? We're 2 minutes in, and it's already split. I think we should start by maybe letting you introduce yourselves and what you do within the industry. We've got the one in the middle.
I'm Letitia. I've been working at Season Mist for 4.5 years now. I mainly do PR, so I arrange the interviews with our artists, but I also focus a lot on the digital side. So I make sure that our singles are available and listenable on Spotify. That's it in a really short version.
Perfect.
My name's Julie. It's my first year here and I'm loving it, and everyone's really friendly, so I'd like to say thanks to everyone for that, because I came on my own. But I run a label called Music for Nations, which is a metal label in the UK, which is based out of Sony Music, but I'm not just the big bad major, so don't judge me. I ran an independent label for 25 years as well. I used to run a black metal label called Cacophonous, and then I ran a UK metal label called Visible Noise as well. So, and I still support the underground very much.
Oh, Julie, hang on. Where are you from? Because you've got I'm
from Cumbria, which is very, very landscape-wise, like where we are today, actually. And it made me realise I miss my home.
I knew it was a northern accent.
Hi, I'm Ivar. I am one of 3 owners of By Norse Music. We started out in a little hut down here, actually. First year of Midgårdsblot, 2016. 15, sorry, because in 2014 me and Einar did the Skugshaw thing over at Eidsvoll. Offended a former prime minister, actually. Kåre Willoch told us to move our fucking car.
Nice. Nice.
It's my big political achievement. And then we went here, and then during that weekend, By Norse came up. So thank you for that. And yeah, I played Enslaved, so we played here a bunch of times. We're loving it. It's such a fantastic festival. And I'm honored to be part of this podcast. Thank you.
We're honored to have you here.
We're also 3D, like also for the people listening to the.
Yeah.
We're actually alive. We're people.
We have some cameras recording as well, so we're going to be going up on YouTube so they can see your beautiful face.
Oh, thank you, sir. That makes me happy to think about. Thank you. What a face.
Let's start, I think, probably with the biggest elephant in the room, and that's
What did you just call me?
Oh, yeah. I'm the funny one here. That's my job.
I thought you were going to say you're the elephant.
I'm the elephant. That's your job.
I'm the
Say that about me. No, let's talk about COVID. I think that's the biggest issue that you guys must have faced in the last 3 years. It must have put so much pressure on you. You guys rely on, I guess, you know, a certain amount comes from Spotify and listening, but I imagine the bulk of them, the real money comes from live shows, people coming out and watching. So what was it like as an effect trying to survive through that? And then what was it like coming back from that after? I don't know if you want to take turns or if any of you want to go. You all leant back as soon as I mentioned COVID, so I don't know. Maybe who wants to go first?
Yeah, I don't know. Everyone panicked, of course, when, you know, COVID hit. I remember we had some tours going on back then, and they immediately got cancelled, and everyone was just trying to get home from Japan to from Netherlands back to Japan. And the first weeks, I remember were quite, you know, what are you gonna do? Is the label gonna survive? Is our income? People stopped buying in the first weeks because no one knew what was happening, how long it was gonna take. But we also noticed, I mean, for us, the main income is not live shows. It's, you know, selling music.
Okay.
At some point, you notice people were getting, well, I guess a bit bored at home. So they started listening more and actually buying more vinyl and merch. Oh, wow. So in that sense, that I guess that's what got us through those years.
See, that shows how much I know about the music industry. That I just assumed it was live shows. That was the biggest.
Well, it depends.
The premise is gone for the
That's it. But I mean, no, this is the whole premise of the podcast, that I know nothing and just sit here and ask stupid questions. We've been doing it for long enough.
Yeah. But correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Heilung touring right around the time when the pandemic struck, and they were basically being chased around the US with COVID on their heels?
I am actually not sure.
Yeah,
I think they said the last show was York when we spoke to them yesterday.
Yeah,
I think that hit just as COVID was there.
New York.
Was it New York or was it York?
I don't remember. But it was
a York.
A York.
A new or old, it was a York. He was one of them.
Jorvik.
Jorvik, maybe, yes.
Yeah. You want to pass the mic on to Julie, and let's hear your thoughts on that.
One of the things that, I mean, I've found it that everyone has found going back to shows incredibly difficult as well. And it's brilliant to see everybody's so engaged here. And it's not engaged, it's immersed. I think it's a different word, isn't it? Mm-hmm. But I think that I live in London, and everyone in London for the first 6 months, even when we came out of lockdown, was petrified. Everybody was buying tickets and not turning up. So you go to a venue of 5,000 people and there'd be 2,000 there, which is great. No bar queues, absolutely. I'm behind that. But it's a weird atmosphere, and it must be so disappointing for the artists. Mm. But the good thing about it is back, and we don't have to sit and watch people perform on screens anymore, because I think it was great for the first 3 or 4. The Behemoth one was absolutely fantastic. That was like watching like 80s Top of the Pops with flash bombs and everything. It was great. But I think now people are sitting there making no effort and sitting on a stool in their kitchen, plinky plonky on a guitar, wearing an egg stained t-shirt. It's not a good look, I don't think now.
It's not quite the same, is it?
No, I mean, people really need to make an effort, and I think people got sick of themselves at that point as well.
Have you found people also wait to the last minute to buy tickets?
Or don't buy tickets in advance. They just rock up on the door.
Yeah, because because they're not sold out, they're kind of just waiting.
Yeah, people are still genuinely worried.
Cancelled right until until they're at the show and they actually see it's going ahead. Then they don't want to put the money out, because obviously people don't want to take the responsibility of giving out all the refunds, and people don't want to be spending that amount of money on tickets. I've seen tickets go through the roof as well. Ticket prices are insane in London. That's the other thing. I think it's also, I imagine it was quite difficult for people to get refunds for tickets that they bought. I don't think everybody understands how a lot of industry works, and I think they assume that they buy a ticket and then that money just sits in a bank somewhere, And then when it falls through, like something like COVID hits, then they just get their money back. They don't kind of understand that money's not in a bank; it's been invested in stages, in equipment, in the acts. Like it's gone until the show happens and you reap the money back. Then it's not there anymore. So it's kind of that thing of where a lot of people probably had to wait for refunds. Maybe didn't get refunds. They just the show got moved. So then now they're nervous to put that money out in case that happens again.
And I can't blame people to that extent either. But I mean, at least this has completely restored my faith in a lot of things. Everybody's wearing festival merch. Everybody.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fantastic. And that's a big testament to the festival as well. You don't get that at Reading and Leeds. Download's pretty good, but not on this level. It's insane.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, by Norse, of course, the pandemic. Yeah, but we got an advantage. I have to say that, you know, it's a labor of love kind of thing. We're still planning on getting paid back from the label at some point.
Well, I know how that feels from.
We're just too fond of like silly things like I can't remember the word, but when a logo is like raised from the paper. Mm-hmm. Feel that with your finger? Embossed. Thank you.
Yes.
And that kind of ruins the payment all the time. I want to make this. That's why we started a label, to realize those things. And so we're not that dependent on the income thing. I guess the same with the band. We still keep our day jobs, so we can still make like extremely unfunky, uncatchy music with way too long songs and still be able to pay the rent. Yeah. So that didn't, but we noticed the thing that made us a bit sad was that something changed with the thing that we had been experiencing, like presenting new music became impossible.
Yeah.
That was the big downer. That was not too many months into it. Just like we kept releasing things, and when we tried to introduce something new, we were like this exciting artist. People were like, it wasn't like they were negative, it was just like they were just not there.
Okay.
So, but we saw the back catalog was going well, and then we saw the US getting bored and started to order vinyl directly from Europe. So that whole vinyl thing, you know, can you imagine? Valdruna, of course, is always a driving engine. We start every board meeting with giving praise to Einar, me and Simon, offering like a sheep or two.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The basics.
Mm-hmm. And then we start the board meeting, point one. So that's all good. But we saw that with the back catalog, kept steadily selling, and people from all over the world ordering the vinyl. So that kept the label afloat. But that's I think it was sad to see that the whole thing, like new artists, really good ones, that didn't just. I'm not talking just about consumers, but the whole industry, like journalists and tastemakers, whatever, trend setters. It's just like you had to present like a legacy band, to get any kind of pulse.
Yeah, I guess you would have had a back catalogue of acts and material ready to go that you still have to release even when COVID hit. You've got to get out, and again, you don't know how long it's going to go on for. Nobody knew. When it hit, we assumed it was going to be a few weeks. Like, a couple of months, it'll be all back to normal, and then it just kind of you hit like the 2 month mark. It's like 6 months. Then you hit the 6 month market. Then it's 12 months, and then that goalpost kept getting moving. And I imagine that's so difficult to plan for.
So I wish, like in Italy, I saw that they went around and like sung outside, like people working at hospitals' houses, giving them praise for being the heroes of the pandemic. And I wish people would do that, like with artists that tried to launch themselves during the pandemic.
Yeah.
To do that too. Get your balalaikas and banjos and play some tunes out their houses and tell them you're sorry the career didn't take off.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
I've got a question actually on that front. But do you think that's intrinsically linked to people not being able to go out and play live? Because we had a very similar kind of vibe with it, and we tried to do things where people were trying to engage with people through a screen, which still makes me just a bit ick now, because you need a visceral personal experience to engage with music, I think. And do you feel it's because that part was missing, or people were just scared? Or
I think that's part of the problem, that they didn't get that thing to like push them over, like down from the fence. But it was also something that happened with us, but it hasn't happened before. There's like the mix of information age and a pandemic. It kind of overloaded our brains because our need for information, filling out the gaps and all that stuff, just made us zombified in a sense. So the only when we were searching for music and entertainment, we all looked for like post-pandemic. It had to be tied into something that we knew from before.
I think it levels the playing field as well, because it all the bigger bands get humbled. They're not selling arenas anymore. They've got to create content just like the smaller ones. So they're all creating content together, and obviously established ones are going to win over the new ones unless you do something special.
Yeah.
And it's probably, it's no surprise that like Heilung took off from like Castlefest and Midgardsport, and I think the same thing's going to happen with Nabala, and I've been saying that for a while, the whole time I've been talking with the owners. Seeing these things, especially in this type of genre, I think you really connect with the acts. Is of an emotional experience. So seeing them live, that's really what drives that interest, and then you go and tell your friends and listen to it at home. And
it's one of three, what do you call it? When the rockets go up, they have stage one. You need all that. You need the thing on. You need a live concert for people to talk about.
Yeah.
You need a YouTube thing. I was here when Heilung played the first time, which was kind of silly. Thinking about it now, but I didn't realize how crazy it was, because a lot of people are talking about, you got to see this Heilung. I'm from Bergen, and Maria, the singer, she used to live there, so there's a bunch of Bergen Viking people with pointy hats that wanted to see that show.
Yeah.
And they were talking about it all day. And then something happened during the concert. There's people like, not just texting from there, people are running around texting and calling, like something was happening here. And we know now what happened. Yeah. People were calling like to the US, and people calling home. That's not very often that happens, that people run off to call home to tell about the concert they're seeing. Yeah. So I think that's a really good point. It's not enough in itself, but when you have the package of an album that's on its way, you have the chatter, maybe a single, and then you add that concert. Yeah.
I don't think it was just emerging or new artists. I know from the releases that we did in those 2 years, they are kind of lost albums, because now there's so much new music, and these albums, they're great, but people, it's just lost time, and people were listening to it back then, but now they had no real chance of promoting it. So I don't think it's only for new artists like Ivor said, but also for some of our artists, it's just too bad. I guess everyone with access to a studio spent 2 years in a studio creating their next big album. So as soon as it ended, everyone just went, here's our new album that we're working on for the last 3 years. But so did everyone else, I guess. And it just floods the market.
But with the live side as well, I mean, we've seen bands that were trying to release stuff 2.5 years ago, and then trying to do the tour to support it. I mean, we've got one artist whose tour is it's the end of this year, and we'll have already announced the next album by the time that tour starts. So it feels everything's out of sync. I don't know what weighs up anymore, honestly. It's really confusing, because I mean, effectively, the band will announce the new album in September. They'll go out in tour in the UK and Europe in October and November. In October and November, they'll be playing songs from the old record because it's the first time they've played them. But they'll also be playing 2 songs from the new record, because by the time the tour comes round, there'll be 2 singles out. It's absolute madness, right? It really is.
Sounds
I'm
complicated.
It does sound complicated. I'm confused already.
Me too.
Confusion is the glue of society.
That is it. Yeah,
It's
true enough.
This
I think.
podcast, funnily enough, as well. So it keeps us going. I'm going to butcher your name again. No, you use my microphone and
No, Dan, say it. Go on.
don't be pussy. I got called pussy on my own podcast. Leticia. Okay, good enough. I've learned if you say it quick enough, no one can understand if you've said it right or not. You said you work in PR, which this is going to be so interesting for me, because I want to know what people are like and how hard it is to manage people in this industry sometimes. It must be difficult. You maybe don't name names, but I want to know. Yeah, no, please don't ruin your career. But I would love to. There must be some difficult people.
Yeah, they're definitely difficult people, but they're difficult people everywhere in every job.
Oh, but I imagine there's some extra difficult people in this one, though.
Yeah, well, okay, I confirm that. But there are also many
He's
people
fishing.
who are.
What's this?
There are also great people who
Oh, yeah.
have their stuff together, and so.
I feel like we're going to avoid that question then.
That was a great diplomatic
It was a
response
great
right there.
answer. Okay, I imagine it is a very rewarding job as well.
Well, in relation to COVID, actually, the last 2 years I've been also just working at home, and then you're like, well, I'm doing an underpaid office job, and of course, so getting back to, go to shows and festivals is great. So you get the feeling of what you're doing again, and that's been great, especially here and at Beyond the Gates a couple of weeks ago. So that's been really good.
But is there any horror stories you can share?
Of the COVID period?
No, just people being assholes.
Let me think about that one.
I mean,
Let me think about that one, and I'll get.
this is my revenge for calling me a pussy.
That's a career move. Tell a story about one of your artists being assholes.
I've got to ask and try at least. I've got to have a go. No, I'm only kidding. Maybe.
Okay, so to take it away from that, I'd love to
I can
hear.
take revenge.
Well, what can be done about the situation? Do you guys have any like suggestions to solution for these issues that have come with COVID and all that stuff?
I think we're actually in part of it
Okay,
right
yeah,
now, because
yeah.
I think one thing that I saw through COVID as well. I also work with Wardruna in partnership with these guys, actually, just for the UK. But I can't take any credit for it. I'm just the label. But the one thing I have really seen throughout this time is people wanting to step away from digital noise and digital communication, and people wanting to step back into nature and back into belonging to things and back into immersing themselves in almost the analog. And I think this is a great kind of tonic for that. And I think there's a lot of festivals that could learn from things like this, because there's a lot of stuff going on that isn't just about the music. And I also think that that's what the music industry needs to learn. It needs to not just sit on its own. We try and do it, but the music industry by default, in a certain extent, does tend to kick you back into your silo. So, I mean, we try and work within film, within gaming, within theatre, within comic books, actually, is a new one for us. But I think this kind of immersive experience and this kind of immersive approach, an experience is the key. It shouldn't be just about gigs. It shouldn't be just about trying to sell music. It should be trying to give stuff back to people and letting them belong to something, to create a culture around it.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Which is something that you guys do really well, I think.
You want to tell us how well you do it, Ivar?
Well, funny you should mention that. No, I totally agree. That's what people want and what they need is some kind of content. It's sad for the black metal community that they kind of they thought Nietzsche was being black metal. He was actually being a nice old man feeling sorry for people. Being your own spirituality and religion was taken away, and that's left the void, And I think that's what's being filled. That we are like at Fire in the Mountains. This lovely old Native American woman. What's her name again?
That was Christiania.
Yeah, Christiania.
Yeah.
And when someone asks, like, how do you feel about this whole thing about in the U.S. and Trump and blah blah blah, all these lizard people, conspiracy people, things going south, and she said, what we say is like they created that world for themselves, so they have to live in it. And I think that's just the spirit of where we need to go. Let them have that. Let them eat poisoned cake, and we'll have a good time here.
Absolutely. So what's it like, I guess, signing new people? What goes into that decision post COVID? Because I imagine it's
lunacy, I think.
Yeah.
Signing new bands now, it's madness.
I imagine it's the same thing as people not wanting to buy their tickets for the concert. Is a similar sort of thing as you don't want to. Is it a struggle to sign new people because you have to pay a bunch of money and then?
No, that's never been the issue, to be quite honest. I think, again, with the advent of the SoundClouds and stuff of the world, there's a lot of noise, and it's hard to cut through that noise. It's hard to try and find the talent when there's so much static going on behind it. And I think that the static for me is it grows increasingly difficult to get rid of, because there's so many people who believe they're talented, and sometimes belief takes over from actual talent, which is an awful thing to say, but that's being really honest. But I also think there's a lot of people who definitely can develop the musical talent alongside the imagery and the ideas that they've got. Mm-hmm. So I think for me, the thing that always stands out is people who are pretty fearless, who will stand out on like a limb on their own, that don't try and emulate other people, that try and like sort of cut their own furrow. And I also think that a lot of young bands find that really scary now. Mm-hmm. And it's also it's hard trying to invent something that is new in 2022, because you've got to take information and ideas from other people as well.
I mean, I imagine you see so many people emulating Wodruna and Heilung. That must be something you come across every day, multiple times a day.
Yes, sometimes I go out in the street and scream like, I had a beard a long time before this all happened. At some point in the 90s with Enslaved, we were actually the only band in Viking Regalia. Can you imagine a world with one band? And that's drunk us.
I remember that.
That's pretty silly. And then somebody went, in 94, like, you should check out this new band, the Swedish band. They're playing on the same stage before you. They're called Aim and Marth. And that was the beginning of something weird and beautiful that happened. So I had a beard for a long time. Just mentioning that. It's great that it's all happening. The problem is that they are missing all the Gordon Gekko wisdom of, if you're seeing something happening in real time, it's too late to jump on it. And I think Wodruna is a good example. Einar, he went underground at some point in the late 90s and worked on this thing. I think Tom Waits wrote the song "What Is He Building in There" about Einar. We all knew he was doing something. It's like clink clank from his workshop. Never came out, never told anybody. And then he went and did this one show at the Viking Museum, and it was like, and he'd been already saying like, no, I think he just had like some kind of Viking robot saying no, thank you to every question for a bunch of years, because he was waiting for the right opportunity. And when the museum said like, could you do a concert in front of this oldest Norwegian artifact? Yes. And that was the start of it. And I think people are kind of sometimes they're missing out on that. And I think it's a bit sad. I think it taps into what Julia said, that you have to create something for yourself. And people are they're spending too much time like looking at stuff, like analyzing. And yes, analysis and number cracking and Excel sheets are great. I think I like Excel too much. Something wrong with me. But for a normal person in a band, you shouldn't be too considering that too much. You should be focusing on your rehearsal room and your band. And that's what we did in the 90s with. I keep like my hat is going off and off, on and off so fast there, you can't see it. It looks like I'm bald actually. That's the effect. I'm not. Or am I? It's like we didn't even care. We didn't think about it for a second, like what kind of success rate it would have. It's one of the things we were discussing at Beyond the Gates with these old farts and the other bands that were playing there. It's like, did we ever discuss like sales targets and stuff? And then we had one discussion. There were some people who were worried about like, I heard it's the new Mayhem and Darkthrone albums that people are expecting them to sell like several hundred thousands. Does that mean that they're commercial? Isn't that bad?
Yeah.
And then somebody like clever said, no. That's commercial. It's just a description of the people buying the albums. Doesn't have to do with the music. And everyone's like, oh, relaxed, like, it's still true. And that was like the entire debate from 91 till 96 in the scene about like sales. And the rest was like, people said like, it sounds horrible. We went to the studios. Is there something wrong with the guitar? It's supposed to be like that? Why is he screaming? And we're like, fuck you, old guy. We know what we're doing, we're the new Mozarts.
Do you think that's a product from social media, that everybody just wants to be famous like this?
Now I get to say I don't have a social media profile. Fucking sucks, the whole thing. Let's go back to text TV.
I wholeheartedly agree.
But it brings up a massive, like, a disagreement with the industry in general. Is my version of musicians, people as storytellers, right? And I think you should be able to tell your story in whatever way you choose. Social media has forced people to be always on, which is hideous on so many levels. Because if I get one more kid coming up to me when they're in our intern program or something like that, and they go, what I really want to be is an influencer. And after I've held down my lunch, it's just like, you have no idea what it even means, because we have teams of people in our building who do that for artists, and I find it tedious. I like titting around with my phone and taking photos of the Borry Mounds and things like that, and that's about as good as I get. But having to be always on as an artist is an absolutely different thing. Like you say, an artist should think about what they want to present themselves as in image. They should be able to have an idea about what their album cover should look like, and the imagery around that, what they want to look like on stage, and most importantly, what they're recording. Because that, if we don't have a good album, if you don't have great music, and you don't have great ideas surrounding that, you've got nothing to create content around anyway, to be quite honest. And people need to start thinking back to that. It's like, take it back to ground zero. Now artists are expected to have a TikTok profile, do this, do that, do the other. It's hard. I think that the music industry has taken a lot of that kind of control away from the artist, and we need to really start thinking backwards. I mean, there's a counter argument for this as well, but my personal feeling, I come from an independent label background, and working inside a major, I see all kinds of things happen, and it's brilliant. You'd love it because it is spreadsheet heavy, but but it's interesting information that comes in. But I still don't believe in A&R or any kind of promotion by algorithm. I think it should be personal choice.
Yeah.
I hate social media, to be honest, but I'm on it and I manage it for artists.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about that.
No, I'm making a point. No, but you know, it's changed, and you say an artist should do this and this and this, but I do think in this world you can say an artist cannot do it, cannot avoid social media, and maybe they hire someone, etc. But it's, you know, it's just changed. It's how the times are. You can't put that genie back in the bottle. So yes, of course we can always look back and reflect, etc. But I don't think there's a way back.
No, but this is the complete counter argument though, because it is the belief in people creating their art versus what they have to do to exist in a volatile and tricky industry.
There is no going back, I think.
No, I don't think so.
Guys, isn't the root of all of this counterculture? So wouldn't it be a countercultural move to be just like naked in the woods instead of on social media?
Yeah, but that already happens. There are enough bands putting out tapes and saying like, I don't want to sell it, but I'm still putting it out. No.
Yeah, there are some, that's true.
If you're naked in the woods and there's no one there to film it, are you naked in the woods?
So I think you might have missed my point either. I'm not saying bands shouldn't do it, but we should take everything back to the root of creating great art before everything else has to move on from that. Because there's a lot of stuff that's created that is not necessarily great that still comes out and that hasn't necessarily been thought through.
It's like you said, people say they want to be an influencer, and that's the same as saying I want to be famous. And it's like, well, for fucking what?
I blame reality TV.
What do you want to be famous for? What do you want to influence? Like influencers would usually have something to say. They would make a point. They'd be famous in their own right, make good music, make good
They're
movies,
influencers because people are influenced by them.
Yeah.
It's the wrong way. It's like my favorite panel ever was this place. Why don't they make veteran cars anymore? Because not enough time has passed, you fucking moron. Yeah. In 40 years, there's be a bunch of veteran cars made that year.
Do something, create something that influences people, and then you will become an influencer. You don't just set out to be an influencer or just be famous. Well, I guess nowadays people can just be famous for being famous, I guess, without really doing anything.
Or creating a weird podcast and then
no, we educate, you educate. And
No, you educate.
No, you educate.
You educate.
But you do. I just ask the questions.
Room, guys.
I know. It's a good job this is a long table between us. And you said you upload for Spotify.
Yeah.
Well, we can talk about that in a second as well. I imagine you were extremely busy in the pandemic then, because surely there was just tons of music that were people creating at home. Just you had to upload all the time, make sure everything was there.
Yeah, there was a lot of singles coming out and artists being like, well, we have to release something now, so let's dig up the stuff that we recorded 2 years ago or 5 years ago that wasn't good enough, and now put it out as something new. Yeah, it is. But yeah,
I mean, it seems like Spotify's obviously just completely changed the music industry, I guess, in how the...
I think that depends on the person you ask, but I notice for us, of course, stuff is way more single driven. An artist puts out 3 singles. If you get in a playlist, it's amazing. But there are also many saying, no, I still listen to an album. An album is more important than singles. So, but it really depends on who you ask, I think.
I think Spotify is probably similar to social media, is that it's not going back in the box. Like, people are very used to this way of listening to music, not having to buy the whole album. They can just pay a subscription fee and listen to whatever they want. And I mean, I don't know whether I necessarily agree with it, but I use it, and I really like how easy it is to discover new artists. So I guess there's arguments all over, because you discover new people because you don't have to pay for it. You just click on it and well, you do pay for the subscription fee, but you're not paying for like the song. Or
you don't have to buy a CD to discover a new band. So you can
just find new people. People just send each other songs, and you're like, oh, I like this person now. But I also imagine they're not the best paying for...
It's convenience versus commitment, I always think.
Now you decide to turn on.
Just in time for this
Wonderful.
argument, Jonathan.
Just in time for Brexit.
Come join us.
Come join.
So you were gonna...
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so
Either side, whichever you
should I catch Jonathan up as to where we are? We're talking about Spotify and what it's done for the music industry. So my argument.
You want to let him in?
Yeah. My argument is convenience versus commitment, because I think we can discover new bands and we can find a lot of stuff out. And I mean, I've personally found new bands on Spotify and went out and bought vinyl box sets, which my partner hates me for because the spare bedroom is full of vinyl box sets. Also, thank you Bandcamp on Fridays during lockdown. But then that's convenience. But commitment is for people who want to go out and spend. So I suppose I see it both ways. I suppose, I mean, I don't see it as much of the devil as a lot of people do.
Yeah, I think like a lot of things, sometimes you get out of what you put into it. I mean, you know, the level of dedication, like say people had to the black metal scene when you were tape trading, and the amount of effort that came into it. Also, you know, coming home with a vinyl, staring at the sleeve, that moment of anticipation, because we didn't have internet, so we didn't always know what it sounded like. So just anticipation when you put the needle on the record and you got the running groove. Those are all moments of magic that you won't necessarily get with Spotify. And yeah, yes, very true. And but also, I think different mediums create different kinds of music. Like, remember we had the whole MySpace metal scene, and which was basically a job for Cowboy, I think. You know. And but there was a phenomenon in itself that, you know, bands. There was some indie band, I think, like that became really huge on MySpace, and then and Bring Me, yeah, and then now you have a kind of a Spotify generation of bands where everything's like a bit of a mix and a match of different genres, but without being really attached to any one. And you can mix genres and find connections between things if you really dive deep into them. And some of the best music comes from that kind of cross-pollination. But there's a lot of it, it just mimics the experience of skipping from one thing to another without having the kind of the interaction with that, and bringing out the power that's inherent in that particular genre and finding connections across different genres. So those are the downsides. And of course, you know, you're not getting the same kind of quality of sound either.
Jonathan, I know you just joined us. Do you want to tell us who you are?
Yeah.
Just for everyone, just a few
like,
people have
who
an
is
idea.
this guy? My name is Jonathan Selzer. I am the reviews editor of Metal Hammer. Before that, I was the editor of Terrorizer magazine for 7 years. And before that, I worked for Melody Maker for 11 years. I'm a lot older than I look. Rest development. And I wrote about metal in the 90s. But, I also wrote about, left field indie music. Got massively disillusioned with the whole scene after Britpop. Delved into the world of metal in the 2000s, so not a lifer, but it saved me. And and the whole universe opened up for me. I was another journey of discovery. So that's the basic short-ish version. Short-ish version.
What's the long version?
You don't want to know.
I guess this adds another avenue to the discussion of the magazine side of things, and how we spoke quite a little bit about COVID. How was that through that for the magazines and keeping going? And
as the reviews editor for Lives, it was a mixture of making my life really difficult and really easy, because we had to cover live streams. Mm-hmm. So we didn't have to worry about someone being there on the day. Mm-hmm. You had like 24 hours, so it made my life a bit easier. My own personal experience was just the same as everyone else. Just, like what we do is so much part of a sense of community. Being here is what gives everything, special meaning. Mm-hmm. And when you don't have that, it just feels, everything kind of feels abstract, and you're lacking a sense of traction with stuff. So I found it very hard to write during the pandemic, because the words weren't really connecting to everything that resonates with me, not seen as a whole. Yeah. We got there in the end, but so, I mean, the magazine, we weren't on the newsstands, but we got through it. We kind of cut our budget a little bit. Mm-hmm. We had to do a lot more stuff in-house, but we got through it. I think
just dig in.
Yeah. I think
that's what most people did.
I think magazines that have I think most magazines now are they're down to a core audience that keep us going, mm-hmm. and they're always going to buy the magazine. Find out, usually they're subscribing. We're still going. Zero Tolerance is still going, and because we have a core audience who will come out and support us, and love that world that you only get between a front and a back page.
How does that work with younger audiences coming through? Do you find there's still plenty coming in that still want the physical?
It's a weird one. When we always looked at our demographics, they were always in the 35 mm-hmm. range, like 36, 35. But, we don't just want to be stuck in a certain kind of period of time and just, maybe that might actually be more beneficial sales-wise. I don't know. But, we want to keep moving and keep with the times.
Well, longevity.
Yeah. We have to. So I don't know. Maybe new people are buying magazines, but we're reflecting the wider world of metal as it is. I live in the narrow world of metal. I'm quite happy there. Yeah. But for the wider world of metal, we still keep contemporary. We still need, metal's a narrative that's lasted for 40 years. It changes, it morphs, it remembers where it came from. As long as we do that, we're good.
So what about the social media side and the digital side of things? I imagine that's. Who wants to? Yeah, I was just going to ask about the. So make sure you go to the digital side, and then we briefly spoke about the social media and how it's always. I guess it's like a devil and an angel in both senses how you use it.
Print and digital are completely different beasts.
Mm-hmm.
Like what works in print doesn't work online.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked on the online side of things. We have a Louder site, which is all the brands, classic rock, prog, and Metal Hammer, and it's huge. It drives a lot of traffic,
mm-hmm.
but it's a very different way of looking at how you frame things. People like lists, but it's also like there's a lot of psychology involved in how you grab someone's attention immediately.
Yeah.
We usually do puns for headlines and features, but that doesn't work for online.
Doesn't I thought that would work that kind of thing.
There's SEO to think about.
Guess what she looks like now. Them kind of ones.
Yeah. But you don't want to do all once. If you keep doing that clickbait and it doesn't really relate to anything, then people are going to lose. I don't. Who wants to do that really? Apart from soulless churners of content.
Good.
I'm glad you said that. So it has to. The trick is relating it to the story. But there is a kind of psychology of like what would make you stop scrolling and go, right, I'm going to read that. And it's not always the things that you think are going to do really well that do really well.
Yeah. Ivor, did you have something too?
Just wanted to ask, like, why do we keep saying like the genie is out of the bottle? Like in Japan, they had streaming for half a year, and they all went like, "The fuck, this sucks," and they went back to the CD. They still have like 8-story warehouses with CDs and LPs.
Really?
So what's this? Where's this coming from? Like that? It's just good enough for us. It's crap. But Spotify is a fucking hoax, you know. Everybody thinks it's a problem between the label and the artist. No. It's the finance people who got in there, and they love it when it seems like it's conflict between artist and company. It's black box economy. It's fucking crazy. They go up to Britney Spears or Justin Bieber or whatever these clowns are called, and like, if you released on our platform, we'll give you 30% of all streaming revenue next month. And then they put the 70 remaining percent in a black box, poof, and we get these statements, and we have no idea what the fuck they're about. Oh, so Vadruna streamed 15 million streams in India last month, and it pays out 0.00015 euros. Amazing. How did that happen? You know, it's the problem of the music industry. We used to be like this with sports, and at some point in the 80s or the late 70s, sports went like, fuck off, we're going to take £1 million for a ticket to the sports stadium. And fans went like, oh, that's too expensive. And the sports people went like, okay, fuck off then, find some other hobby. And then people kept buying it. But the music people went like, oh no, we're not going to get famous then. And then consumers went like, all right, so that's how it is. What if we pay 0 for music? And the artists went like, that's okay. You still we can get famous still, you know, that's the whole point. I'm trying to avoid the expression butt fucked because it's not worthy of this room. But it's all about bend over.
I feel like you said both there.
So are you saying that people are chasing fame rather than, you know?
Yeah, it's the musician's own fault. I'm chairman of the board of the Norwegian Associations of Recording Artists. That's another hat, too big for this room. But
might make you lose some more hair if you carry on wearing it.
This guy.
He made the comment earlier about the hats. I wouldn't have gone there if not.
That's okay. I can confess I'm bald. Let's get that out of the way. But that's the problem. It's our own fault. And we've been a band for 30 years, and we've seen Lars Ulrich. You know, people spat at him for fuck's sake when he was like, "Oh, this whole thing is wrong." With that millionaire guy who's ripped him. What were they calling it? Napster, Catnap, something. And they've made documentaries about the Napster guy being fucking arrested for being fraudulent and stuff. And Lars Ulrich turned out to be right. And now we're at the point where Belgium and Spain, just going to go on for 3 minutes about music politics. Don't worry. Belgium and Spain have now actually made laws that are saying the obvious. It's like when you go on Spotify, 90% of Spotify consumers, basically everyone is not at this festival, they use Spotify as going on pushing play. And then the rest just goes automatically. And what we have been trying to say is this is fucking radio. You know, so that it should be treated like radio.
Yeah.
So if Enslaved is playing on the radio, I want the money for that song. It shouldn't go to Justin Cornflakes because he made a deal with them. I don't want to pay him for doing a PR campaign with Spotify. I want those money.
Why haven't mechanical rights got involved in things like Spotify?
Because we're so scared. The music industry is so scared of not being popular. We want hugs and shit, and we want to be sexy on stage. That's when black metal died.
There is a debate going on now about it.
Yeah, it's happening in several countries.
But you see, you're completely right on this, because it is 90% of the revenue goes to something like 6% of the artists on there, right? And that is ridiculous. And if you run an independent label, it's also difficult because there can be a differential in fees as well. But I think that the sooner that gets leveled, better it will be. But I mean, for the record, though, for discoverability, and I appreciate what you mean by the genie's out of the bottle conversation there. But I also appreciate exactly what you're saying here. It's a completely new world. And I think post-COVID, and dare I say it, because there's now 3 Brits on the board, but the post-Brexit, I'm saying it again, the post-Brexit scenario has completely screwed Britain as well, on top of everything else. So on top of the Spotify worries on royalties, we've got to worry about getting artists into Europe that costs so much now.
Mm-hmm.
So much. It costs us £1,000 to get an artist over the channel, effectively, with a carnet.
And if you do want to buy the vinyl, it now costs it costs more than the vinyl itself if you're buying it from the continent. You know, so yeah.
So, do you think the problem with Spotify started long before Spotify were created? In a sense that as soon as the internet hit and people could rip music for free, like you said, with Napster, LimeWire, people got spoiled with all this music that they just didn't have to pay for this. So then Spotify comes along and you pay for it, but you're paying, it's peanuts. You know, it's what, £10 a month? I don't know how much.
It's progress. It's more than zero.
Mm-hmm.
So when bands started like quitting because they didn't get paid anymore, we were like, it's going to even out in a 30, 50 year period.
Mm-hmm.
We'll stay the course.
But £10 a month for Spotify compared to what it would be like £10 an album.
But that's
it
not
doesn't
the problem.
It's not hard to figure out that if I'm listening to 50 bands in a month, there's no way they're getting.
It isn't the price, because we're part of it's a capitalist situation. It's a capitalist stance, but we want to be part of it. We want to have a discussion. We don't want to be in a discussion where the consumer says, we want to pay zero.
Mm-hmm.
Then we want to be able to say, no, that's not enough. And then they can say, like, we want to pay 0. Then we can say, yeah, let's do that.
No, Napster was slightly different in that it was decentralized. I mean, that was a company, but it was people uploading. It was like the torrents, they don't exist in one place. And I think that was a slight effect. I think that even with Napster, it was still people were kind of involved in a sort of connection. It's not quite the same as tape trading, but it's but there's an analogy to it at the very least. And so, but just like with everything, you get the Wild West, mm-hmm. and then a new sheriff comes into town and
mm-hmm.
and goes, right, everything goes through me. Mm-hmm. And that's always been the state with the internet and anything even vaguely utopian, sadly.
Okay, last one. That's Napster. The reason why the guy got rich is the same as the Pirate Bay.
Okay,
people miss the point is that they became millionaires because of selling ads.
Mm-hmm.
So while all these kids were doing like this fantastic thing of trading and sharing content, that's where the money went, and they didn't share it with the people who were actually behind the content.
I mean, that hasn't changed necessarily much now. Even with YouTube, you're getting paid from the ads.
Yes,
it's not the content. It's all about ads now. I think it's everywhere, whether it's on Facebook or.
So there's actually like a positive thought behind all this. It's like things can be changed. It just takes an enormously long time in the music industry because we put up with way too much. Mm-hmm. And there's a third party in this. It's the lizard people. I'm kidding. Of course not. But it's kind of. It's finance business. People who like to gamble. They entered with the streaming thing, and they're not recognized as being part of it. That's why we miss out on these discussions. Mm-hmm. Like Spotify. Like, why didn't Spotify come forward and say like, hey, there's not a conflict between the labels and the artists. They're on the same side. There's a third party here that's pulling money out of the companies. That's why you're not getting paid.
Mm-hmm. So, Eva, what would happen? What would be the benefits and the non-benefits if you just took all your music off of Spotify, Apple Music, all these streaming services? What would happen?
I think we get a very sexy, warm letter from Neil Young, and that's about it.
No, but it is probably bands like Wardruna who can actually do this and say like, no, we're not going to do it. We want more value for money, etc. So why not?
Because
it feels like it would need everybody to do it all at once. Yeah. Maybe like you'd have to have so many of the real big players all go, no, fuck this, we're all leaving. Because it's like if one goes, they're just like, well, we've just someone else is going to take your place.
Yeah, I mean, was it? I mean, I could be wrong. Wasn't it Earache or some labels that took themselves off of Spotify, and then they just like crept back on again?
Yeah.
I'm saying the opposite. I'm not going to pull it off anything. We want to be there, but keep pushing, saying like, let's have this discussion. Let's end this thing of like putting. Obviously, that didn't work for us. Like, you don't get paid, but you get your face on a cover of a magazine. What would that help us? Like more people screaming when they see the magazine cover. But we want to be part of it, of the painting, and change it from within. But there's way too many artists that are just accepting the fact that like, and labels, like you can work your ass off for 1 million years and you're not going to get paid. That doesn't get you anywhere.
Isn't that going to get harder when there's more bands coming on where that's all they know? Like they don't know there's another way.
More beautiful people, I think.
Yeah. I mean, what do you reckon?
Oh, God, I wish I'd never took the mic now. I mean, your argument is absolutely watertight, completely 100% watertight. But it is that embarrassing factor that you need to still be in it to win it. You know what I mean? And that's the painful factor. Because, I know what Wardruna sell physically and versus what they do streaming-wise. And I mean, it's an interesting balance, actually. And I mean, like, should we just do a poll? Who actually uses Spotify in this room? Who uses streaming services? Other streaming services are available for the purpose of the podcast. So
No, it's all right.
Sorry, can you do that again?
No, they're all insignificant.
So not everybody then, interestingly. So who doesn't use streaming services at all?
I know this one is live.
No. I do use YouTube. Does it count?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're the worst.
Out of the room, yeah.
Yeah, they're the worst payers.
And also the word soundboard.
Yeah.
Worse sound quality. So you are True Cult and listen to vinyl only. Anyone else? True Cult vinyl only? No?
But I mostly use Spotify only for podcasts. I prefer vinyl.
You know this guy.
Yeah, well, I think that's a valid
We
thing.
want the money.
I'm also a baker.
You are. I know you are.
But there you go, but I think the only thing that we can do, and it goes back to technology taking over, because I mean, remember going into record stores, like even things like chain stores like HMV and Saturn and things like that, when it used to be records. Now you go in and it's iPads and game controllers and everything like that. It's insane. You know, that's what it's like in HMV for us. So, come.
That's why I'm saying HMV.
Yeah, but not all HMVs. The huge HMV megastores are mainly things. That's a recent thing, to be quite honest. But I mean, but what do we do? What would we, as an industry? You're right. We're shoved into a corner. Now it's started. We can't stop. We've got to move forward. But we've got to find a way to work with technology.
I think our sound guy wants to say something.
Yeah.
Finally, the sound guy speaks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming Matthias' mic is going to pick it up. So I'll just say, I just want to bring up something that hasn't been mentioned yet. That's really important in the Spotify conversation is that Spotify is hemorrhaging money, despite the fact that it doesn't pay performers anything. Like you said, they pay you peanuts. I don't think they even pay you peanuts or cornflakes, I think you said. Yeah. But Spotify has been losing like 20% revenue quarter over quarter for like the last 3 years, I think. So even though you guys aren't getting paid, where's all that money going, right? I just wanted to bring that up. I think that's important because we're talking about the finance guys, but they're losing money too. So what is even happening? Where is my subscription going? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Where is the money going?
Yeah.
Wow. Someone's getting it. There'll be a few people who are getting well paid, I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, one day you're going to find, whether you're on Apple Music or Spotify, if you have a library, one day you're going to find it's all gone because you don't own it.
Oh, yeah.
That's why it's important. It's important to own the music. It's just you got to put something into it, and but just one day Spotify might go under, Apple Music might go under, and then your entire library is gone. And what do you have to show for it?
Yeah, I guess.
That's why I buy the physical copies because no one can take it from me unless they break into my house. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The other thing is, I think people lose the mediums to play them on because technology keeps getting smaller. Most cars, they've lost the CD player unless you buy a vinyl. Everything kind of is just going more and more digital. So I guess you could buy them in digital form, but even then you could lose them, I guess. But I like owning something physical. When you look at I think the last vinyl I saw was, again, to reference the Nabala one. The artwork's beautiful. They put a lot of work into it, and it's just a really pretty thing to hold and look at. And there's something to that.
I mean, there's probably more things you want than you can afford.
Mm-hmm.
If I buy vinyl, it's because it's a record that really means something to me, and I spend a lot of money on vinyls.
Yeah.
And I guess as well, like I don't know if this works like this, but now all the vinyl has been running in limited editions, whether it's color. So not that anyone buys vinyl to speculate and sell, but it is something of intrinsic and other worth. Should you feel you have to sell everything and run off to the mountains, which we'll all do at some point.
I'm halfway there.
Black vinyl is now a thing. It's pretty crazy. You've seen it both with the band and by Norse. Like that's like actually the thing that I had to point out. Like, buy the black vinyl regular edition thing, and you see like all these collectors go like, yeah, I want that one. Because there's so many. I think with the Last Enslaved record there was 32 versions, and really, really keen on like make sure we get like the black one sent to the band, because that's the one that's now the goal, because you can actually listen to it. But I'm not complaining. It's kind of a cool thing too when you go to the US and you tour there, and the merch, you'll have kids coming up by the vinyl, and you're like, oh, you got a record player? Kind of. No. They just really like the album, and they want the physical representation of it.
It's a collector's piece as well as.
And I think that's cool too. Go kids.
I mean, your physical collection of stuff, whether it's your books, your records, the stuff on your shelves, that's like a map of the journey you've been on. And I just can't imagine, they're kind of like external memory banks in a way. And there's so much invested in them. Sometimes, I kind of, I imagine a completely minimal world where I'm not surrounded by stuff. But actually, yeah. But actually, I love the idea of an archive and just randomly going through stuff and oh yes, I remember this. But you've got a memory attached. If you own physical things, you have a memory attached to each one of them, and it builds up into like a much bigger picture. And not having that, I just that's, to me, that seems a strange way to live.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go devil's advocate again here, just because. Right, so right now we've got a worldwide fuel crisis. People are strapped for cash. It's almost like saying that if people can't, and Spotify isn't free, it's still paid for by ads. It's just people's perception of having free music. That's another thing that should be underlined with that, I think. But we've got to find a way that is egalitarian so that it means people can have access to what they want, because that's just made me think about the fact that if you want a certain piece of vinyl, I mean, I work with Tool, and some of their vinyl iterations are ludicrous and people buy them, but not everybody can afford them. And that's the thing. And I just, how do we get around that? I mean, I think this is a great conversation. I really do. What would your solution be to that? Libraries.
I used to get when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I discovered a lot of stuff going to the library. And back then it was vinyl, but later on it was CDs. And I would just go around and discover all different kinds of genres. Because, either you're music obsessive and you stuff you want to find out. I buy blues stuff. I buy, it was just a round discovery. And of course, back then everyone was ripping things at 128K. So now you're left with kilobytes per second. So now you're left with like a whole library of like really shitty rips of stuff. Yeah, but it's a beginning of agenda. I mean, that's a kind of a more egalitarian way. I mean, that's like saying, you shouldn't have libraries because the authors aren't getting paid. Do you know what I mean? It's a repository of culture.
I like the idea of vinyl libraries, but I am more of a, maybe I guess, a streamer in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
I like Spotify in the sense it's easy to use, etc. And when I really appreciate a CD or album or whatever, then I buy it. But I don't. I think best of both worlds. So.
Okay, I'm gonna say this. How much do you think that comes down to age? Because I don't want to be offensive to the other panelists, but obviously you look younger. I'm going to assume you are younger. So how much do you think that plays into it? That obviously you're from a younger generation, so you grew up with streaming, whereas maybe the others didn't.
I think it's definitely a thing, and that's also with the whole singles. The audience, the younger audience now, they listen to bits on TikTok, on Instagram, etc. It's all just short chunks of music. And so they listen to music in playlists, which is one song after another. It's a lot faster. And in that sense, I mean, I like a varied playlist and so on, but I also still grew up with albums, so I can also appreciate listening to an album from A to Z. So that's probably why I like both. But, I do think it's also has to do with age. The kids are listening to shorter stuff and just bits and pieces of music instead of an album from A to Z. And, the metal scene is very conservative in that sense. And most people here will probably still listen to an entire album instead of 30 seconds of this and 30 seconds of that. But that's generally in the music industry what is happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that consumer driven, or where does it start in that circle?
It's chicken and egg discussion. I think
it's an old thing. The medium is the message.
Yeah.
Like when something is big, then as a label, you try to be a part of it. You want your music on TikTok so people share their God knows what with your music. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know what came first.
I just find this discussion really fascinating for multiple reasons. There's like this weird disconnect between needing materiality and this like weird non-materiality of the digital, and we also hit on that before, where the difference between sitting at home for 2 years and watching something on a screen and then being present at an awesome festival and the experience of that, like the physical reality of that. Like it seems like it's a encompassing issue for the music industry, really. I don't know if any of you have more comments on that, because I'd love to hear it.
Obviously, before you get to that, we should introduce
Oh, yes.
our final panelist who joined us. Yeah, if you want to just let us know your name and
Hello.
what you do, I guess.
My name is Otto. I work for Dark Essence Records and Charisma Records and Apollon Records. And just got off the stage, so I'm sweaty and stinky. And
I mean, you'd fit right in a metal festival.
Yeah, and we're talking about physical versus streaming.
Yeah, we've been talking about
Which one do you prefer?
Spotify a lot, I guess.
I don't like to choose. If I'm given two options, I will say yes, please. So I've had a record player in my room since I was 7, so I'm very album oriented, very vinyl oriented, but I use Spotify all the time and Bandcamp to check out new things and check out interesting playlists like Rollburn, for instance. But it's really nice to work with metal and prog because people are still buying albums, a very album oriented audience. So that's very good. But I enjoy streaming. I like it, but I like albums more.
I'm starting to see a preference there. We were talking about it in terms of like, is it an age thing that the younger generation is more focused on the digital?
Definitely,
and losing contact with the material in that sense.
Yeah, but it also depends on the genre. I mean, in pop, you don't buy records unless you're a diehard fan. You listen to Spotify or Apple Music or whatever. But like in metal and prog, people are very much into the physical product because you have this really diehard fans connecting more to the music, and they want the product, they want to support the band. And we've seen that a lot now in the COVID days. People couldn't go to concerts, so they just sat home and bought records. We had an explosion of sales, and I think most other metal labels had the same. Do you agree, Eva?
Yeah, partly.
Yeah.
Except from as we talked about earlier, there was became really apparent that it's really hard to break new bands. Yeah. But the old farts, myself included, Yeah, really. People collected, and also even though the postage seemed to be going up a lot, people were still buying a lot. So that's amazing. Hurrah for vinyl.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Do you think there's a world for both, for streaming and physical to live together?
Yeah, definitely. If you do it right, and we try to.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing is that also Spotify has started with producing vinyl in pop music, and they sell it to fans first. It's like a program. So it's actually interesting that Spotify also sees some kind of worth in physical products. Well,
That is really interesting, actually.
We haven't worked with that yet, but I get some emails from some Dutch hip hopper who then sells, I don't know, a small amount of vinyl via Spotify.
But again, are they then taking are they then taking more money out of the artist's mouth by doing that? By money out of their mouth, food out of their mouth, by doing that in house themselves? Are they then stealing the artist's opportunity to?
It's not in house though. The
is it
label
not?
will produce the vinyl.
Okay.
So you sell it. You actually sell it to Spotify. Spotify.
But imagine they buy it in bulk cheaper. There must be something going on where
they would
they're.
buy it an RRP. Definitely.
It depends what they're cutting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they would buy it a standardized RRP, which is there's no
Okay.
choice.
I would have just assumed, as Ivo put it earlier, that the artist would be getting butt fucked.
No, actually, on that one, no. Although here's a weird thing though. We wanted to do something with a large artist, and they turned us down for a fan first.
Okay.
But the thing there is we ended up having a number 1 in Germany, number 2 in the UK. Thank you, Harry Styles, 100% streaming. Killed us. We got a number 2, and it's our own label as well. That's the worst part of it. We were competing against ourselves. It's awful. But then our actual the number 2 position was 89% physical.
Okay.
He's a lovely man, but he could have just took a week off that week.
Did I see Vicky? Were you? Did you wanted to ask something before? Or was she no?
No, I think it's really interesting what you're talking about. Me not being part of the industry, but being at the other side of the table and being an oldie as well. Yeah, physically. Because, it was brought up about radio, and radio, apart from the bigger bands, never really did much for the metal stage. And also what you said about pop music, that they in the 80s they were just selling singles. There was never any interest in albums on their part. And also when you were talking about libraries and where to actually listen to new music, that has been a very kind of democratic thing for a lot of people, because more music is available to people. And for me, it was always a limitation that I didn't have any money. So how do you get the albums? And if you're a girl and you don't know anyone else who listens to metal, how the hell do you get new music? So you could go after the big brothers and ask for tapes. But that was very limiting, and that's why that a lot of the bands that has been around forever are bands that I kind of found 20 years later because I didn't have the access. So in that way, Spotify is a good thing because I can find new stuff. But then again, it's the physical object. And the actual, going into a store and looking and smelling and touching the albums and reading the lyrics and seeing the art. Yeah. That is such a beautiful thing, and that is lost in the digital world.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, there's something else. It's just like it all sounds assuming that we're all we're like listening to music in isolation, but music is all is like your friend is like, hey, I discovered it through your friends. I discovered things like Big Star and John Coltrane, because all my friends were into a load of kind of 60s stuff, and so you discover things through your friends before Spotify, and you have a particular associations with them, and how your friends would like music would give you a framework for listening to something like Bitches Brew by Miles Davis, which is like the first time you hear it, you're going to go like, what the fuck? But so
Demon music now.
yeah, oh my God, yeah. Yeah, I probably shouldn't say this, but there's 3 things you should not do on acid. Be 17, look in the mirror, listen to Miles Davis. Jing, jing, jing.
Can we do that?
But you know, but it's those. But it's not just about the music. It's all those memories that stay with you, and maybe you don't get that. And remember, you used to get on vinyls. You used to get on the inner sleeve. Home taping is killing music. Well, you know, the next decade was like, well, hold my beer. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that comes down to an age thing.
I'm
Again?
I tell my, I'm 52. I'm 17.
It seems like there's, because it feels like the younger generation just want everything, again, like we said earlier, now. So they don't want to wait and go, you know, they hear the song that their friend played for them and they want it now. They don't want to wait to go to the shop and buy it,
Yeah.
or they want to pick the phone up and go, no. But that's how it is. Like, the new generations are indoctrinated into this thing of just wanting everything right away. And I guess, again, down to Amazon probably to blame for this. You know, I have a merch company, and we fucking all the time are competing with people who want things next day. Handmade items that take, you know, me days to make. They're like, why is he not here? I ordered it yesterday. It's like, because I'm fucking making it. It takes time. But people are just spoiled by Amazon. They just want it next day. And that feels like it's across the board with everything.
They did some psychology tests, and you know, kids who get instant gratification, they're actually unhappier in their lives. And you know, this is the thing that kind of binds the press, music press, and you know, music, is the idea of delayed gratification. Because you know, you wait a week for the music, but also you know, I discovered records through reading about a record and going like, oh my God, this sounds amazing. But you'd have like a week or two to, I mean, you know, that's why I became a journalist, because I read really incredible writers and I just wanted to be anywhere near as good as them. And but then you know, you spend a week or two imagining what it sounds like from the words, and then and of course it never sounds anything like it, but you're so invested in it imaginatively with the record before you've heard it, that you've got that connection, like, you know, having that imagination, having that delayed gratification for something and wondering what something sounds like, and just having that sense of wonder full stop is something that, you know, we need to keep, we need to find ways to keep going as well.
I guess how I get it, is we said before about putting the genie back in the bottle. I can't see it changing. I think it's just getting, it feels like in my lifetime anyway, it just gets worse and worse. I remember as a kid waiting for something to come. I'm as guilty as anybody else. Like, I used to wait a week for something and I was so excited for it to get here and it made everything better. And then now, if something's not there within, you know, I complain about other people doing it, but I am guilty of it. If I order something and I'm like, I expect it to, I'm like, where is it? Why is it not here? And then it's kind of this thing that's just getting bred into everybody. I'm the problem. But do you think we can?
Podcast with the solution.
Amazon Prime is a whole other.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
not one for us, I don't think. Should we wrap this up? See if anybody has any questions, and then we can all get out of here and go get beer. Yeah, obviously the Brit agreed with that. The first one.
Well, I think things are starting to get better. Like,
Okay.
physically, I mean, there's a
that
vinyl
on?
shortage.
Our sound guy is taking a wee.
Oh well. Oh well.
You pull Mateus's microphone over. We know that one's gonna work.
I mean, and can you hear me
Yes.
inside your head? Awesome. I'm very into vinyl manufacturing, and there are 3 companies making new vinyl presses, and all of them have more than a year waiting time. And the vinyl sales have I think they rose by 40% last year compared to last year. Again, that also had a tremendous rise. And the CDs are back on the rise again, and cassettes.
Really?
Oh yeah, well, mostly because of the long vinyl production times and the huge costs nowadays. So cassettes are making a really big comeback. Even like Even like Universal and Sony are making cassettes again.
Sell a lot of them. So
Oh, yeah.
Expensive.
Oh yeah,
They're expensive.
but I think we might see a future where streaming and physical can coexist in a good way. I hope so. Yeah. Let's not be friends.
Let's not be friends.
But we can be friends. Yeah.
Friends. Outside friends.
I like that. A glimmer of hope.
Yeah, that's a good place to end on.
Well, yeah, especially with beer.
Okay, let's
Coffee
see.
with beer.
Beer brings hope.
Vicky, do you want to see if anybody has any questions in the room? Maybe. If anybody does, they've sat here for long enough. It does
Does it
maybe
work?
pull it.
All
No.
the way in. That's it.
Hello. Oh,
Oh, he's back now. He can turn it up. He's
Well, thank you for this podcast. I was thinking about the time that DVDs, videos were on tape first, and then on DVD, and then on Blu-ray. We had different mediums following up on each other, and when you had build a collection, it was just it went on being worthless because you didn't have the player anymore. Is vinyl, is CD, is tape there to stay? Is this the last medium, or?
That's a good question, because I know plenty of people who, I myself had tons of DVDs, and they just went to the tip.
Yeah, it seems a little anachronistic that we're still playing vinyl and tape nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who wants that one?
Most of the DVDs I still have are films that aren't on Netflix or anything like that. So I'm still more than happy to keep my DVD.
Like none of the weird movies.
Yeah, exactly. None of the really weird, dark shit is on there. Absolutely, it's
Yeah,
true.
no, that's a really good point. Like, you can't find Caligula anywhere on
Exactly. Loads of terrible Mexican vampire films.
There's no Salo, strangely. I don't know what happened.
Exactly, yeah.
But also that's a really, really good question, because cassettes, we sell a lot of cassettes, and some of the people that we sell the cassettes to are very young, and I would imagine that they don't even know what it is. They think it's a building brick. They think it's Lego or something like that. But again, it goes back to collector's mentality versus convenience mentality, I think. And I do think all of these things will stay. They will not go away. And I mean, for everybody here who's sitting from a label background as well, we need to keep that ecosystem going, really. So we need to encourage the collector's mentality.
You better the laser disc. That was charming.
When you had to turn it over.
Like the pizza.
Mm.
That was fun.
There we go. Alyssa, you had one?
You had a question.
Sort of comment with a question, I suppose, both in relation to how times change and the platforms we listen to, or how we listen to change, and also about like how we discover music. The weirdly charming thing is that despite all the massive changes that have happened throughout the ages in terms of how we purchase music and the format we listen on, people don't change. Because I remember, like, when I was a child, how I was introduced to pop music was like my 2 years older cousin gave me a mixtape with all the artists I heard that she liked, and that's how I discovered pop music. When I became a teenager and I was into metal, I got mixtape CDs, so like burnt CDs from guys that had a crush on me, and that's how I was introduced to metal bands. Whereas nowadays, people are sending each other playlists on Spotify, and that's how they discover music. Is like, here, have a playlist. I like you. Here's a playlist. So people don't change. It's just the format we listen to that does. But the consumerism and the way we listen to music is still the same.
Part of the fun about making playlists was also making the cassette art yourself for them, and you don't really get to do that on Spotify.
You can do it.
Yeah.
Can you?
But yeah, I would go to town on those. I'd even write sleeve notes.
Oh. Were they for people you had crushes on?
Well, some, yeah. I made one for my brother, and I wrote crazy fucking sleeve notes.
I mean, that's a different conversation. That one.
Yeah. No, I did, and but I was really into graphic design, and it was, there was this magic. I would sit every night, listen to John Peel, tape machine on pause, waiting to find something. Realized much later on how shit my taste was back then. But you had all this. But you had all this like your own cassettes of just like stuff you taped off John Peel. I was really obsessed with 4AD records, so I just get Sunday papers and I cut them up. You know, the magazines that would come in Sunday papers, make collages. I was really into typography, so I'd make my own design playlists, and it's just you know, I just kind of miss that level of obsession with things, which maybe because of that was more of an age thing and it's too cold now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just you have so much memories around that, and it just if you put that, I mean, when you put that much effort in you, that involved, it stays with you, and it's not just memory of the music. It's just a way of being that kind of stays with you as well too. Like, you know, put the effort in.
Okay. Any last questions?
There's something that was noticeably missing from the conversation. You talked about a little bit of festival merch, but band merch wasn't talked about at all in the whole process of like bands keeping them sustaining themselves.
You try sitting in the panel.
No, I don't. Because for example, unlike Ivar, I'm actually bald, so when I see that a band has a bandana or something like that, I buy that immediately, right? And so wouldn't the name of the game for bands to be just versatile then, by playing live and being on streaming and selling your collector's edition vinyls and selling merch? It's just so hopefully just mixing, right? You can just get everything right.
But that's a big up to Bandcamp then, really, because you can do everything in one place there. And again, that's partially responsible for a lot of my outgoings during lockdown, I think, really, because that was brilliant discoverability. Because you could just go on there and their editorial is absolutely unbelievable. You go into something, before you know it, you've been on there 4.5 hours and you spend 300 quid. It's ridiculous. Don't go on there, actually. It's terrible.
Anyone else? Are we perfect?
One more.
Ivar specifically, because I didn't raise my hand, but the streaming question was because I still on Spotify. But back in the days when CDs were still being copied illegally, you must have gotten a bad deal with the record company once or twice, right? So how was it back then? Did you still receive €60 a year for being played 59 times in India, or how was it back then?
Actually, we're about to release the 16th album, the difficult 16th album.
I mean, I feel like that deserves a round of applause on its own for getting through 16 albums. I'm going to give you one.
We're going for Motorhead's records. Actually, no. We've had good deals with all the record companies. We've actually been at the point where we've renegotiated when a record company discovered that maybe the deal should have been better. It pays off to be somewhat nice and patient, turns out. And the metal industry is particularly nice when it comes to that, because all these underground companies that we work with, they all have a sense of responsibility, I guess. And I have to say, now that we're a Nuclear Blast band, also it's the tidiest. You know, when we say that's so German, we try to make it sound like we're offending them, but actually we're jealous because they're so tidy. We haven't had a bad deal, but to say that with the copying of CDs, for me it's the same as copying with cassettes. There is the authors and the bands, we do get a little compensation in the countries. It used to be called, in Norway it was called the cassette fee fund or something really catchy. And they paid a little bit to all the artists as compensation for all cassettes being copied. Yeah. And that's what we figure. We've always been like that. If somebody wrote us from South America or from Russia, we still do it with Blind Horse also. And it's always like, let's be honest. Could we get maybe 500 euros to license this deal to this territory? And we know the guy is going to be copying, burning, whatever. That's fine. It's about they have less means to buy the albums. That's what we thought in '95 too. In South America, we went to Mexico on tour, and they said you should go over to the enslaved part of the vendors market. So the enslaved part, there's several places selling just horrible enslaved merch. One T-shirt, they've painted corpse paint on us because They're like, oh, they forgot the corpse paint. Let's fix this. We bought the shirts. First, we tried to get them for free. We're like, we're enslaved. They're like, yeah, right. And then we bought them because it looked awesome. I had an inverted cross in my forehead. And it's not like, oh, these fucking idiots are not paying for their albums. It's like, this makes sense. They don't have the means there to buy it. So go ahead and bootleg. And if one guy wants to be in charge of the bootlegging, maybe that guy can pay us a little bit of whatever he's making from it. And that's still the attitude, you know. It should be, I think, it's a moderation on the capitalism that we're all part of. That buying, selling is all fine, but sometimes it's okay to sort of like moderate according to the means that people have available.
Oh, everything's exploitable though, and I've told this story on the podcast before. But I have a friend who I'm not going to name. He pays, and it's not Matthias. He pays for his Spotify in Ruples because he can use a VPN to be in India, and it's cheaper in India because they do what you say. They understand that it's cheaper over there because people can't afford it, so they get the same service for less money. So he uses a VPN and pays for it over there for like $1 or whatever. And so everything's exploitable when you do that as well. People find loopholes. It's
Also, he needs to get out more.
Oh, he does. He does. Oh, I think he's just tight though. He's just tight. But I don't agree with it. I think you should pay the full price. But
there are Russian sites doing that.
Yeah, people will do it. I'm sure there'll be tons of people doing that. I bet. It happens with everything. Unfortunately, everything gets ripped off. But we need to try and figure it out, I guess. Let's wrap this up. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
It's been a really good chat. You're going there in the middle. Tesh, you got anything to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, let's get beer.
Yeah, let's go get beer. Perfect. Thank you.
Professor Sauce.
There we go.